Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's March 1st. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and we're starting a new month today. And as bad as it's been the last few days, this is about as good as it gets here. Actually, these kind of days can be hard, but when you see all these little bitty bars, they just keep going higher and higher, and there's not very many pullbacks. You just about have to take any correction and enter. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on a great move. And so there were lots of longs today, a few greens in there. Um, most of these greens, you probably could argue for them to even be blue because um, you're just not going to get much of a correction. It's just all buying. Whether it had anything to do with Trump's speech last night or whatever, it doesn't really matter. All that matters is that it's a strong trend. And it really started um, early in the overnight and it never checked up. It just kept going all day. We finally got a little correction here, um, but it picked back up again and continued higher until we finally we got a little bit of sell off, but it was after 2 o'clock. So if you just stayed with the longs till after 2 o'clock, you were good to go. But let's go ahead and talk about the trades. It shouldn't take long today. It's pretty straightforward. Um, there's a possible green here. Notice you got a double bottom and then a first entry and a second entry. You're going long right into the high of the day, but it's obvious at this point that it's a pretty strong trend. It's not quite as obvious at this point because it's still in the overnight. So it's a little more risky. At that point, I wasn't sure where the range really was. All I could see was it looked like this was the midline, but you really couldn't get this till a little later in the morning to be obvious. So, you probably had this line way up here, and if you're doing that, you got a lot of room. So, but I still made this one green just because it's still in the overnight period, and it's still a little risky going long at the high of the day. When we hadn't come back to the trend line, and it's still not a lot of evidence that this may continue into the regular session. But as you can see, it does. We work our way back down. Notice you get a little correction here, a break, move to a new low. That's not a perfect signal bar, but it's still a second entry. I'd use this for your signal bar. When it broke above that, I may drop a lemon order back where your second entry would have triggered on this bar, or maybe even just a tick or two back, and you would have got filled on it. It comes back again and just keeps making these uh, matching highs or matching lows here, and then went higher. Um, I'm not crazy about this one, but you got this correction. If it would have broke lower, I probably liked it better, but the fact it couldn't break lower, I wasn't crazy about it. But there's still some reasons to believe that if it breaks above this double top, it's probably going to push higher. And of course it does. And then, by this time, it's obvious this is a really strong trend. And then notice you're coming back here again. You get a little close outside. And this is almost a perfect repeat pattern of this one. You actually get the little pullback here. So again, I make that one green because you're going long with just a few ticks from the high. And none of these are coming back to the trend line either. But that's because it's such a strong trend. And then we actually pull back here and correct. Notice you get a first entry, and then you pull back and you get a second entry long. But notice this, a new low, a first entry, second entry. That's a failed second entry short. This is a perfect setup. This is, you definitely got to take this one. It's the first break outside this two-tiered channel. And if you caught this one trade, you could have ridden this up, pretty much into the 2 o'clock hour or until we started trending lower again finally. So if you could just catch one trade like that, you're in pretty good shape. But I'd start a new trend line here, and you can see I've got a new two-tiered channel working up. this is really a double bottom, so it's a first entry short, second entry short. I treat that like another failed second entry short and use it for an excuse to get in. And then we pull back again here. This one is really, I'd adjust my trend line just a little tighter. But this is really right off the trend line again. I wasn't as crazy about this one because it's a 2-bar matching high there. You got to go long right into a 2-bar matching high, but it pushes on, pulls back, gives you another one, and again, you don't have a lot of room here, and you do have a break, and you've got 2 measured legs up now, so I'm a little bit less eager to enter up here at this point without some correction. But you can't argue with it bouncing off that key entry point in a very strong trend. And there's a possibility that it just keeps going up and we get a measured move based on this first move up early. And actually, I didn't measure it, but it may be that we got a measured move. Let's just measure it and see. There would be your first one. I don't think we did. I don't think it went that far, but let's just measure it and see what we did get. No, we didn't quite get there, but you know that's a really big move to get another measured move like that. So that's asking for a lot, but hey, I've seen it happen. So then we correct here. You get a break, move down. You actually get a second entry long right here. So you really could have argued to enter right here, but I just wasn't convinced that we weren't going to, that maybe there wasn't another trend line here and that we weren't going to sell off. And so I liked it better waiting on the second entry here. Notice pullback first entry, pullback second entry. I probably should, you probably should argue for that one to be green. I think it's I think you get exactly, it may have been a 1-tick failure. And if that's the case, you might have got stopped out here on that one. So that's another reason to, but you can see that that it looks like you got a trend there, and that's been working all day, but this is a pretty big sell-off compared to everything we've had previously, and we do have the break and the new high here, so that made me very leery of this one. And then also you got to consider this, and you get a break here and then you try to go lower twice. You actually get a second entry here, and notice that new high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry, and it actually didn't break higher until here. So these are for all intents and purposes the same trade, so you really don't need that arrow there. But that's where I would have started looking for my entry, and you actually get another push down and a double bottom, and it actually breaks higher there. So there's really only one entry there. And then notice here it tries to go lower once, twice. There's your failed second entry short, another nice bullish bar. It's also a new high here, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. That's your great entry point, and notice how it takes off again. You can't ignore those, and you get another runner there and another nice move up, and then you get one more pull back first entry, pull back second entry, and I was actually thinking we'd probably push one more leg up like this. Didn't happen, but you would have got an easy scalp out of it. So I would have gone ahead and probably drawn this trend line like so. And you can see that we do kind of get a close outside. It's not very convincing and a new high. But yeah, if you just stayed with the longs all day, pretty easy day. And I know I'm going to get 100 questions. Isn't it dangerous to go long into the highs of the day? Yes, it always is. But when you get a trend day like this, where it's just going higher and higher and higher and you're not getting any corrections, you don't have any choice. You can't sit here and watch this thing go higher and higher and higher and not enter. But what will happen is most people will watch it all the way to here, and then they'll finally say, I got to enter, and they'll enter here and they get burned. But if you just start taking these, you probably would have had a runner back here somewhere that you could have ridden all day, and you don't have to keep entering if you don't want to. But yeah, on a day like this, It doesn't look like a strong trend, but when you see all these little bitty bars and lots of dojis mixed in, and it just keeps going higher and higher and higher, and you don't get very many, hardly any big corrections. And you can see this is a two-legged correction, and then it kind of went sideways. That was enough to reestablish the trend all over again because you had your break and a new high, and then you corrected for over an hour, and so you could have started a whole new trend there. That would have been, you would have had everything in place to not be surprised if that did happen. So, but yeah, when you see this kind of day, it doesn't look like it, but you need to learn to spot this because these are the kind of days that you want to just buy and hold on and let it keep going. And you may even try to do runners differently on a day like this. You may give them a little more room because you just don't get very many big corrections. And then, kind of lock your profit in as you go so that you don't enter up here and watch it come back and stop you, and you lose your profit or whatever. But it never really corrected very big at all until late in the afternoon when it's, you should be pretty much be done by then unless you're just riding a runner up. So, yeah, so much for the last few boring days. Today was anything but. So I hope you had a good day today. This is probably one of the better days I've had in a long time personally. And I hope it worked out the same for you. But I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again and do it tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. And we'll see you next time.